Okay, episode 5, Mike Paul, How I Beat Cancer. In the last episode, I just gave a brief overview of dealing with getting into hospital diagnosis, dealing with the staff, but basically it was all about getting to know everything that I needed to do, to know my regime inside out, know the staff who were going to be looking after me, and to make friends with them. Those probably were the two big things for me that helped me on that side of things. Going to dedicate this episode to Bob Welford, who I mentioned in the last episode. Why? Because Bob was a great guy, full of positivity, and he introduced me to this book, Anti-Cancer, A New Way of Life by Dr Servan-Schreiber. This book was the basis, the foundation of everything I did from then on in. So, and it's also, for me, I think, a pretty good handbook on how to live life, whether you have cancer or not. So a lot of what I want to talk about over exploring my journey with cancer is actually how to prevent cancer as well. Do we need to get it? But also, obviously, if you do have it, but both sides are important. And if we're really going to truly beat cancer as a society, the best way is actually not to get it in the first place. So this plays a big part in that as well, I believe. So Anti-Cancer, New Way of Life, what it does, it explores the theory behind cancer, why we might get it, tells the story of the author who had cancer. He was a medical professional himself, went through all the conventional stuff, it went away, it came back, he looked at this stuff again, asked his oncologist what could he do to help himself. This really rang with me because in my first meeting, I asked my oncologist at the end of the meeting, what can I do to help myself? And he basically said, nothing, just go through this day by day, take each day at a time. I was really disappointed with that, because I felt that, one, I've read that cancer was, a large number of cancers, and a large element, it was lifestyle. So if surely that's the case, then surely I must be able to do something to help myself. But not according to certainly my oncologist at the time. When I read Anti-Cancer, New Way of Life, David Servan-Schreiber had exactly the same experience, almost word for word, with his oncologist. He wasn't satisfied with that answer. And I'm so glad he wasn't, because what he then did, he went and researched everything across 3 main fields that he could find in the literature at that time to do with cancer, whether it was foods, whether it was exercise, whether it was psychology and mindset. He explored that evidence, and anything of hope he put down in this book. And that's when really the big changes started being made for me. I took everything on this board, and this gave me my mission, was to implement as much of this as I could. He also has a chapter explaining the statistics of cancer and mortality rates, and understanding that, and that was really, really helpful, because it was like, put yourself on the right side of the statistics. I'll maybe go into that in a little bit more detail, but I would encourage you really to read that book, whether you've got cancer or not, because it will make you a lot healthier just by following the stuff in there. So this is an overview, so I'm going to try and be brief so that people who are out there can get started with making changes themselves if that's what they want to do. The first and easiest thing for me to get a grip of was food. What could I do? Now, despite being into my fitness and stuff like that, I had fairly varying food habits over the years, from going absolutely totally shocking to going on periods of allegedly very healthy eating, up and down. But I had started developing an idea that food was important, especially in the, just managing your weight and all the risks that come with that, etc. Although I see weight as a symptom now rather than a cause of stuff. So what were the food recommendations? Straight off the bat, cut out refined sugar, cut out refined processed grains, cut out vegetable oils, eat shed loads of vegetables, reduce meat consumption. If you're going to eat meat, try and make it organic, few nuts and seeds, and that's basically it. It's pretty simple. There are more detailed things. So Servan-Schreiber suggests that following a more Mediterranean stroke Asian style of eating is more beneficial for cancer. He talks about the spices used. So turmeric is very anti-inflammatory. If you're going to have turmeric in your food, have it with black pepper, because that improves its bioavailability. So from a food point of view, that was fairly straightforward. Great whilst I was at home, because it was very easy to do. Hospital was a different matter. Hospital food for me was rank. It was disgusting. The smell in my first cycle left me vomiting for days, and for years afterwards, the smell of any food similar, sometimes I would get it on an airplane, would make me want to puke. So what I actually did was asked friends and family to bring food in for me, which they did, and that was great. I was able to use a microwave in the ward to heat my food up, and that made a massive difference. Again, whether is it taking control that allowed me to do that, I had much nicer food, much better food, much more nutritious food, and felt much better for it. Other parts on the nutrition, green tea, I'm not going to go into all the science of it, but there is a lot of science behind the chemicals within green tea and how that would help cancer. So I started drinking green tea along with dark chocolate. Again, lots of benefits. There's a big chapter on this in anti-cancer, and also, if you bear with me, this book here, which the chapter in anti-cancer is based on. Again, really great descriptions of all the different food types that you should be eating. So get that book. I will go into a little bit more detail maybe in another video on the specifics of it all, but I also believe that you guys need to do some of this and own some of this yourself. So I want to give you an overview of that, but the big things for me: cutting out the sugar, the refined flours and vegetable oils. I then drank green tea religiously, along with a square or two of dark chocolate, 70% or more cocoa content. Drank a glass of red wine for compounds in there, resveratrol. And if I look through the book here, the food groups: berries, fruits, raspberries, blackberries, the green tea again, turmeric that is mentioned. Benefits of soy. Soy's I'll talk about that more. It's a controversial one, so I'm not gonna talk about that yet. Garlic and onions was a great one. Cabbage, cruciferous vegetables, loads and loads of that. So I ate loads of this stuff. Here we've got omega-3s. That's the other big thing I did, omega-3s. I started with fish oils. So throughout my treatment I had shed loads of fish oil tablets. So the reason for getting rid of the flours and the vegetable oils is because they are chock full of something called omega-6, polyunsaturated fatty acids, and omega-6 is something that is necessary, but they promote inflammation within the body. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Just so happens that in a standard Western diet, omega-6s outweigh omega-3s in our diet typically by 10, 20, 30 to 1. And really what we should be looking at is a diet of maybe 1 to 1 to 4 to 1. So you can see that bias towards inflammation is inherent in our diet, and so that was a big way of cutting that stuff down. So cut out the stuff that has that in it. Refined flours, vegetable oils. Up initially your intake of fish oil, and I was probably having 10 to 15 grams of EPA and DHA combined. I wouldn't want to do that long term, but initially that was what I did. I did it in ways that I could afford, so I got mine from Boots because I could buy 3 for the price of 2. There are lots of options out there now, krill oil, all sorts, so do a little bit of research. This was obviously a few years when I did mine. Read the book, have a look, start looking at changing your food. And if you are in hospital for a lot of time, just start working on those relationships to start, and can you get your own food brought in? Because that was a big thing for me, to be able to do that. I hope that helps. Any questions, please let me know. The more questions you ask, the better I can direct this information and put it in a way that suits you, and also to answer the questions that you want answering. So thanks again, till the next episode. Cheers. Bye.